Hello.
You're listening to Track by Track with me, Dan.
And me, Will. This is the podcast where you take a great pop music album and break it down, track by track.
And isn't that ironic, don't you think? A little bit too ironic. No, I really do think that on the turntable this week, we have Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette.
Dan, this is probably one of the biggest pop albums of the 90s and is a long overdue appearance for it on Track by Track. Is that too grand a statement to make such within the first minute of the podcast?
I don't think it's grand enough, Will, actually. I think this is one of the biggest albums of all time. And I think, yeah, really, I mean, we didn't go straight for the biggest selling albums ever when we made this podcast, did we? We didn't go straight for Queen's Greatest Hits and Shania Twain's Come On Over, although we really should do Shania Twain's Come On Over, actually. You know, we've talked a lot about synth pop and we've gone on different tangents, but it really does feel like we should have been talking about this album before, because also I think it's not our typical style of music. So it didn't go on the long list for a long time, but actually it turns out we both really love this album as well.
Oh, totally. And it might surprise you for me to say that, Dan, because obviously it's very guitar driven and it's very different to the usual electronic mumbo jumbo that we often like to talk about on Track by Track. But I can remember thinking back to when this album was released and everyone at school was into it. Everybody loved it. And it was often, if you go around to someone's house, you would just put this album on, play it all the way through, and then play it again and play it again.
Definitely. And also, I think people with this album, because this was released 1995, wasn't it? And I think it got very popular in 1996. And I should just say right now, the reason we're talking about it today is because Ironic is just turning 25. And so the album got really big in 96 as well. And it felt like there was a lot of girl-fronted pop music, but this almost felt like a little bit edgier, a little bit more mature, maybe. And I think that comes across as well, because not only did all your friends have it, but probably your mum and dad might like this one as well.
Would your nana like it, Dan?
See, Nana, Grandma, as she prefers to be called, she thinks Nana sounds old. She did have Adele's 25, so, you know, she's current-ish. But I don't think she had this one, to be honest. But I'll tell you who she did like. Alicia Zatic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she loved The Indestructibles. I think Terry Wogan used to play it on BBC Radio 2.
How old is your grandmother, just out of interest? Or is it rude to ask?
I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying that she's going to be 80 this year.
Oh, she's had a good innings, hasn't she?
She's not dying.
No.
She's got a whole life ahead of her.
No, but I think she probably has had a good innings. She's probably, the story she could tell, Dan, would make you blush.
They have made me blush, Will, but I absolutely will not be talking about them on this podcast.
Save that for Stories from Nana, your new podcast, coming soon.
Similar to Christopher Maloney's Songs for My Nana album that he made.
Stick it on the long list. So, Alanis Morissette, Canadian-American singer. She has had a long and illustrious career, going back to the early 1990s, because Jagged Little Pill, although it was probably one of her biggest albums, wasn't the first. There's much more to her than that. So she's had a lot of success. She continues to have a lot of success, and she continues to release as well.
Yeah, I knew that this wasn't her first album, but it wasn't until doing the research that I read that this was the first album released outside of Canada. And I also didn't realise, because her first two albums aren't on streaming services, or I couldn't find them anyway. Her first two albums apparently are very much more of a dance pop. I also read somewhere a bubblegum pop sound, which I very much doubt it's bubblegum pop, but I haven't listened to the first two albums, but I'm really intrigued to hear them. Have you heard them, Will?
I haven't heard them, Dan, but I bet when you heard bubblegum pop, you had a prick up your ears. No, you pricked your ears up. No, what's the phrase?
My ears pricked up. Something pricked up.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. This is Jagged Little Pill, which is the album we're going to be talking about today. It's the third studio album, and it was released on the 13th of June, 1995. Dan, what's the significance of us talking about it
So
today.
I've told you. Ironic is 25. Happy 25th, quarter of a century to Ironic. And isn't that ironic?
Isn't it ironic that I just don't listen?
No, that's expected and standard.
And this, so this was released in 1995. Again, third time I've said that now.
When was it released, Will Lovey?
If it's 1995, it's not 25 years.
No, Ironic was released in 96. You daft bugger.
Dan, are you all right today? You feel a bit edgy, so you get picking up on some vibes.
Because you're not bloody listening.
So now we've got all that out of the way, and hopefully you've calmed down a little bit, Dan, and just relaxed into it, and we can get started.
So, time to get stuck in?
Let's get stuck in. Side 1, track 1, All I Really Want.
And all I really want is some patience, a way to calm the angry lives. And all I really want is deliverance. Do I wear you out? You must wonder why I'm relentless and all strung out. I'm consumed by
So,
the
that
chill
was
of
All
summer
I
fear.
Really Want. I think Alana starts as she means to go on. This sound that is running through this album is very present on here. And what I mean
Dan,
by
sorry, I've got to interrupt you there. Don't think by saying she starts as she means to go on, you can reach around saying set her stall out. You're basically saying the same thing, aren't you?
I am basically saying that, and I just thought I'd try and steer away from the catchphrases, but you know what? Let's keep it in. She does set out her stall for this album. The sound, it is a very much indie rock, almost slightly grunge inspired in places, alt rock thing, but thinking about the sound that she had before, this apparent pop dance sound, there's a real focus, I think, on the rhythm and the beat and the bass, and I think she's brought that with her.
This does introduce this kind of power guitar, power pop sound very early on, and again, very untrue to my usual form. I really enjoy it, especially for the first time. It's got a really the first of many very powerful choruses.
Definitely, and delivered with a very unique vocal style as well. I think there's no one really that sings like Alanis Morissette. It's almost, it's very emotional, it's yearning, it's, as you said, it's powerful, and she can hold it back, and there are songs later on when she almost kind of talks through some of the verses, but yeah, here she belts it for that chorus.
This was the third single released from the album, and it got to number 59. Oh, it got to number 59 in the UK.
Well, what I will say though, Will, is that when I was looking at the singles and things like that, I found that this is one of those slightly frustrating for us occurrences where the singles were sometimes released in different orders. So if you are listening to this and saying that wasn't the third single, that was the second or the first or the fifth, they were released in some cases, some weren't released in all territories, and some were released in different orders. So here in the UK, this was the third single. Also, Will, this is probably the right time to talk about who is assisting Alanis with production and songwriting.
You took the question out of my mouth and just did it. Brilliant.
Well, I think we've reached that stage in our relationship, in our professional working relationship, Will, where we can read each other's minds. It is Glenn Ballard on this one. And Glenn has worked on all sorts of iconic things, from Michael Jackson's Thriller album to The Cause, Talk on Corners. He even wrote the track Believe from The Polar Express, one of my favourite films, of course. And he is co-writing and producing, but also he plays guitar, keyboards, and programming on here. And as I said before, it's a very rocky album. It's a very indie album, but it's definitely rhythm in with the programming and some of the beats and things like that. Also, Will, on this song, there is, in the credits, there is a groove activator, and that is Mr. Gota Yoshiki. What a cool title to have.
What does it mean, though?
The groove activator, it's some sort of sequencing machine, some sort of synthesizer. And Gota has worked with all sorts of our favourites, Depeche Mode, to name just one.
And also, I just spotted a couple of other track-by-track favourites that Glenn has worked with. Bewitched,
Really?
Katy Perry. Yeah. Katy Perry, Annie Lennox, Shakira, and Christina Aguilera. Wilson Phillips.
Someday somebody's gonna make you wanna turn around and say goodbye. Until then, baby, are you gonna let him hold you down and make you cry?
And before we move on from this one, Will, this song is about, as well as a few other things, it's about intellectual intercourse, which just makes me think of some of the parties and things that must happen after the University Challenge filming is finished.
A bit of geek on geek action.
Oh, absolute heaven.
Oh, but you'd love to be a fly on the wall in that green room.
Think Jeremy gets involved, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Full hammer and tongues.
Oh, time to move on.
Mrs. Clarkson gets involved as well.
No, Paxman.
Paxman, oh. Track 2 now, and this is You Oughta Know.
And every time you speak her name, don't you know how you told me it all the way till you died, but you're still alive, and I'm here to remind you of the mess you left when you went away. It's not fair to deny me of the cross I bear that you did to me. You ought to know.
So track 2 there, You Oughta Know. I feel like with this one, Will, she's getting a little bit rockier, she's getting a little bit grungier, but still, this sound, it appeals to so many people, doesn't it? And I think that's why this album, was so popular. Because again, if you was at an adolescent age when this album came out, you could really you could get on board maybe with the lyrics of the scorned lover and things like that, what's going on with the relationships at high school. But also, again, I can imagine my dad listening to this one in the car.
Could you really?
I could. In fact, he probably did, Will.
I think this song is fantastic. I think it's one of the best songs of the 90s and one of the most remembered and iconic songs of the 90s. Just because, obviously, it was the lead single off of this album, so it kind of took you into this whole period for Alanis. And I also think like you say, the lyrics and the attitude behind it, so relatable, really empowering as well. Also, we had a little shocked moment when we were listening to the track just now, because it's quite blue as well.
Yes, sorry, if you're gathered around the wireless on a Sunday evening with your wife and children, then I do apologise for that sort of language. It's not what we aim to share on a family-friendly show like Track by Track.
You metaphorically clutched your pearls.
I did. I gasped.
And I can remember, again, listening to that as a teenager in like a kind of shared listening experience. Everyone loved it because it was like the F word in a song and it was really cool and it was really fun. But, this is very personal, this feels as well, this track.
Yes, and I do believe that the man in question who this song is about, Alanis, did not reveal who he was, in a very similar vein to You're So Vain by Carly Simon.
But this was an interesting thing happened to this in the charts, actually, Dan, because it debuted in the UK singles chart at number 76. And then over the following weeks, it rose, eventually peaking at 22. So although it didn't set the charts on fire, it was a big seller. So it actually sold nearly 300,000 copies in the UK because it just grew and grew and grew. And that is because very much word of mouth, I think, at the time for Alanis in the UK.
Yeah, definitely. And what an exciting time the charts were back then. Obviously, mid-90s, when things would, quite often, they would enter the charts outside of the top 40 and then grow up the charts? No. Climb, that's the word. Climb up the charts. Yeah, I loved, it was just great fun back then, wasn't it? Just to watch the charts or listen to the charts every week and just see what was going on, what was moving around. I saw a screenshot recently, Will. Someone shared a screenshot of when Ed Sheeran released his last album and every song was in the top 40. And the chart, that's, I think, when the charts were broken and were boring. And obviously this was 95, such a different time.
And just a reminder to reassure our listeners, you won't hear us talking about Ed Sheeran on Track by Track.
That's a track by track guarantee.
But I know what you mean, Dan. I used to love like an underdog in the charts that would kind of come in and then rise slowly.
And there are some familiar names playing on this track as well. Flea is on bass. Flea, of course, from Red Hot Chili Peppers fame. Also from Back to the Future Part 2 fame for me. And you've also got Dave Navarro, formerly of Red Hot Chili Peppers and of Jane's Addiction.
I love the fact that we will go 10 minutes earlier from talking about Bewitched and Wilson Phillips to talking then about the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
And you know, Will, actually, I'm a fan of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Are you a fan? Is anything they've done appeal to you?
Nothing springs to mind.
What about their cover version of All Saints Under the Bridge?
Oh, yeah, it was a good cover. It wasn't as good as the original, though.
No, definitely wasn't.
We should just preface that because we do obviously sometimes get pulled up on these things. We know what the original was.
Yes.
All Saints.
And before we move on from You Ought to Know, you ought to know, Will, that the video for this one was directed by Nick Egan, who we only spoke about a few weeks ago on the Duran Duran episode.
Yes, we did indeed.
Hello, Nick.
Why did we speak about him?
He directed one of the videos there. Why do you think we spoke about him? Just had a chat, see how he's going?
I don't know. Just short-term memory. Track 3 now, and this is perfect.
I'll live for you, I'll make it what I never was. If you're the best, then maybe so am I. Compared to him, compared to her, I'm doing this for your own damn good. You'll make up for what I blew. What's the problem? Why are you crying?
So that was perfect.
Oh, what
there.
did you like
And-
about it, Will?
Well, I was going to say, and I was going to make a little joke just
Sorry,
for fun
do
and
I do
say,
take two?
no, let's leave it in, Dan. Let's show you up. I was going to say, you're probably expecting me to say, what a great time to talk about the fantastic album art, but I'm not, actually,
Oh.
because I love the juxtaposition of that kind of really thrashing voice, which is just incredible, to a much more tender. So to go from thrashing around to being a little bit more tender.
That sounds lovely. And sorry for interrupting you, Will, trying to get a quick quip in there. How unprofessional of me.
Anything for a cheap laugh.
Yes, a cheap laugh and a cheap thrill. This, Will, is the first song that Alana's performed in her audition for Maverick Records, which of course is the label co-founded by Madonna. And this is the label that Alana signed to. And apparently they knew straight away, just a few seconds into this song, they knew that they were going to sign her. And of course, what a deal it was for them, because this went on to sell, I think, in excess of 30 million copies, this album. So good for them. And good for her for nailing the audition.
And good for anyone that was canny enough to buy this album when it came out, because I think regardless of what music you were into at the time, this was a real treat. I think that her talent, her vocals, and this song is a great showcase for her incredible vocal range. And it's a little bit more stripped back, so you can hear it even more exposed. But just, the range that she has is phenomenal. And I think it really did cement her place as a female megastar.
And with it being a bit more stripped back, this one, it does showcase the voice even more, doesn't it?
Do you remember? I think this definitely paved the way for more female solo guitar-led artists. I can remember a very sound alike. Do you remember Meredith
Brooks? Yes,
and
with Bitch.
Bitch.
Did you just say that as an excuse for us to both say bitch?
Bitch.
You bitch. Reminds me of
You-
Pat and Peggy.
You bitch! You cow!
Who we often compare ourselves to. But no, that song was very reminiscent. But I loved it still when it came out at the time.
I'll flaming well kill ya!
And if we're lucky, here's a little reminder.
All rolled into one. I'm a bitch, I'm a lover, I'm a child, I'm a mother, I'm a sinner, I'm a saint. I do not feel ashamed
I bet Will. I wouldn't be surprised if some people assumed that was Alanis. And also another one that was similar in sound to me that always kind of makes me think of Alanis is What's Up by Four Non Blondes, which I think came before, but it's got that kind of very angsty female girl power, DGAF attitude.
And of course, also around at the time, Cheryl Crow. Cheryl Crow.
I don't know if I've talked about this already, but I was so peeved at Glastonbury last time we were there, whenever that was, because Cheryl Crow was playing on the Pyramid stage on a sunny Saturday afternoon, and it's the first time I was going to see her. I was so excited to see her, but I was parched and I needed a drink and I'd ran out of cans, so I went to the bar, and there was the slowest service in the world, and for some reason Cheryl Crow played her 3 or 4 biggest hits at the start of the set. So they were all playing as I was queuing to get myself a cold pint of cider. And by the time I got back to the crowd and to where we all were, I didn't know any of the rest of the songs, basically.
And do you know what? She's vindictive like that. She knew you were waiting.
Yes.
She knew you were waiting. She knew you were waiting for her.
For a cider. Before we leave Perfect Will. That's not something I say very often. Before we leave Perfect Will, this one apparently is about pushy mums and dads. And they're bloody awful, aren't they?
A bit like your mum. That time that she pushed you into the railway track. That time that you went for that country walk. Track 4 now, Dan.
Hand in my pocket.
I care, but I'm restless. I'm here, but I'm really gone. I'm wrong and I'm sorry, baby. And what it all comes down to is that everything's gonna be quite alright. 'Cause I've got one hand in my pocket and the other one is flicking a cigarette.
So, hand in my pocket there. Another iconic Alanis Morissette track, and one we were singing along to that. It's one of those ones that I think everyone knows. Everyone knows the words to it.
Yeah, definitely, and I love the words to it as well. I think that they're the kind of words that are really fun to sing out as well. There's one, I'm brave, but I'm chicken shit. It's just, I think you said before, when there's the F-bomb in one of the songs, you just kind of, especially as an angsty teenager, you wanted to sing the swear words.
I'm drunk, but I'm sober.
Yeah. Full of contradiction, this song. A little bit like you, Will.
There was that time, remember the time, Dan, that where you did think you were drunk, but actually you were sober, because I kept bringing you Virgin Mojito.
Virgin Mojitos, and we started off with bottles of Caliber, if I remember correctly.
But you were still falling all over the place.
Stumbling all over the place, you know. It was a what's it called? A placebo, wasn't it?
Placebo. Get them on the long list, Dan.
Nancy Boy.
So this was the second single to be released from the album. And again, interestingly, this got to number 26 in the singles chart. I have a very selective or hazy memory of this album, and I imagine the singles were much more successful than they actually were.
Yeah, likewise. But maybe people were just going straight for the album. Maybe she felt like an album artist, and obviously many, many, many people did get the album. And also, there's there are certain bands, aren't there, or artists where their albums are hugely successful, but their singles not so much. And I think maybe Alanis is just one of those artists. I mean, people call it an album artist, don't they? Some people are album artists, some people are single artists.
And this is definitely something that you can imagine not imagine. I think it definitely did get heavy radio play in the US and probably across the UK, though, at the time. It's very radio friendly.
Very radio friendly. Like we said, you can sing along to it. I love how it's also, you know, you can imagine hearing this one live. It'd be wonderful to sing along to. You could have a little sway to it, but it's not her most upbeat. It's not her most angsty. It's just a fantastic, relatable, approachable, perhaps, song.
It's quite whimsical as well.
Very whimsical. Also, Will, there's a harmonica in there. I don't think we often get a harmonica on Track by Track, do we?
No, Dan, but it did remind me about the time when you first tried to play a harmonica and you popped the whole thing in your mouth and tried to play it, and it was obscene, actually. Just horrendous.
Well, I do apologise. I never even had to play one before, so I had no idea if it was meant to suck or blow.
So let's move on now. Track number 5. And Dan, this is what happened the last time that you came over to my house and had my artichoke and blue cheese bake. Right through you.
But didn't hear a damn word I said. She right through. I know right through you. I feel right through you. I walk right through you.
So right through you there, Dan, this is interesting story actually for this song, isn't it? Going through it.
Yes, I believe it is to do with sleazy, I think is the right word, like record company bosses and things like that, isn't it? And as we said before, Alana signed a new deal with Maverick for this album. Her previous 2 albums not available on streaming services, so you can only imagine that there's maybe still even 25 years on from this song being released, still some bad blood there. And good for her, actually, for, sticking to her guns and also for sharing her experiences of these nasty individuals.
This is the first time I feel compelled to say what a great album track this is.
Yeah, it's this was not a single. There was there 5 or 6 singles from this album? This was not a single. But I feel like with this album, and we said it before with Perfect, the quality of the songs throughout is just fantastic anyway. I really like, Will, on this one, the line about, and it sounds a bit silly saying it after what we just said about the meaning behind the song, but the line about wine dying in '69. So it's a fun line. So let's move on then. Track number 6. It's another album track. This is Forgiven.
Got it, confusing as it was, no fun with no guilt feelings, the sinners, the saviors, the loveless freestyle. See you next Sunday. We all have reasons to be there. We all have a thing or
So track 6 there, Forgiven. With this one, Will, we've talked a lot about Alanis's voice, but I think with this one you can really lose yourself in the music, and there are lots of musical breaks in this one.
Brilliant guitar. I just love the guitar in this track. I can't believe what I'm saying.
I
can't
know.
believe what I'm saying.
Who is this?
But no, I just love it in the kind of pre-chorus and then leading into the chorus, as well as obviously the brilliant vocals. The guitar really shines for me in this song. Quite mid-tempo. Again, another, the writing on this is really great because it's drawing from her experiences. And this is a lot around her upbringing as a Catholic.
And is she forgiving? Well, is she a forgiving person? Are the people in the song forgiven? I think it's open to interpretation.
As with all great songs,
Absolutely.
you take your own reading and you take your own enjoyment from it.
Yes. And, Will, you don't forgive, do you? Or forget?
No, I do like to bear a grudge.
Yes. And you're very good at it, I have to say.
Particularly at a time where there are much fewer things to enjoy in life. So at the moment, I'm feeling particularly vindictive.
And I'm really getting the brunt of that, actually.
Yeah, and I know you were only 10 minutes late to record today, but I am going to send you quite a long text about it later.
Oh, I do like those lengthy texts you send me. I have to scroll the screen about 5 or 6 times to get to the real meat of the story.
maybe it's a sign of the times now of the kind of more throwaway, quick, fast-paced world we live in. But if you get a long text that you have to scroll for, does it sometimes put you off reading it?
Oh God, yeah, absolutely, yeah. There's what's that meme about? Oh, happy for you or sad for you, didn't read it or something like that. I definitely, I get that. If I do get a text like that and it is, I don't know if it's, bitchy or it's full of some constructive feedback or something like that, I really do like to reply just with an okay, or maybe even just a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
That's it. It's even easier now to not even have to write a reply. You can just heart it or dislike it.
Yeah.
Or Dan, your favourite is the exclamation mark.
Yeah, just to show you that I'm quite shocked and taken aback by what you've said.
Track number 7 now. You'll learn.
You live, you learn, you love, you learn, you cry, you laugh, you lose, you learn, you bleed, you learn, you scream, you learn. I recommend biting off.
So that was You'll Learn. This is one of my favourite tracks on the album, Dan, and in particular, I think the chorus is just beautiful, actually, and really pulls on my emotions.
I didn't know you had any, Will. I shall have to play this song every time you come round. Try and tap into that unbreakable spirit of yours.
But do you know what I mean? Seriously, though, do you know what I mean?
Serious, sorry, yeah. No, absolutely get it. And also, I think because of it's the delivery, isn't it, of the vocal of the chorus, because I feel like it's amazing anyway and you think you get it, and then she just gives it kind of one more push of that you learn, sorry, not you'll learn. It kind of, yeah, almost takes your breath away, but also just the whole spirit, the whole lyricism of the song, talking about self-help, is one that you kind of, it's one of those songs where you kind of just sit down and listen to it and just put yourself in the place of the narrator.
Put yourself inside the narrator. But this is, it's very empowering, isn't it? And again, the familiar kind of motifs of this album around the very personal nature of the songwriting, the guitar-driven production, it's all present and correct as well. But I just think the way it's kind of comes together in this is wonderful. This was a single. It was the 5th single from the album, and it got to number 24. She's kind of hit her spot in the album, in the singles chart in the UK with this, in that kind of low 20s. And the video for this track I found interesting, Dan. It was filmed in the meatpacking district in New York, which is funny because you used to live in the fudge packing district of London, didn't you?
Outrageous.
I do like fudge. Fudge is delicious.
Yes. What's your favourite flavour fudge?
I do like the traditional one. And also, on a very basic level, I do like a finger of as well.
Yes. Oh, Cadbury's.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I think that's the most boring chocolate bar of fudge. When you get one in a selection box, it's always the last one to go.
Oh, first one, straight in there with that.
No surprises.
Leave the bounty, Dan.
Oh, no, I don't want the bounty, no. This song has the line, swallow it down like a jagged little pill. It's where the name of the album comes from. Also, this one, Will, was featured in Glee's Jagged Little Tapestry episode, where they mashed up songs from this album and from Carole King's Tapestry. So this song was mashed up with her classic, You've Got a Friend. Have you seen that episode, Will? Were you a fan of Glee?
I a very early series, but very quickly lost interest.
I haven't seen, I don't think I've seen a whole episode of it, but I do keep meaning to, because it's on a lot of the streaming services, isn't it? I do keep meaning to give it a little go.
Track number 8 now, and this is Head Over Feet.
You've already won me over, in spite of me, and don't be alarmed if I fall, head over feet, and don't be surprised if I love you for all that you are. I couldn't help it, it's all your fault. Your love is thick
So head over feet there, and Dan, she goes hell for leather on the harmonica towards the end of that song, even more so than you did that time when you tried to play it the wrong way.
Yes, but I'm sure she's much more skilled than me. I'm sure she didn't put the whole thing in her mouth.
Well, you shouldn't put the whole thing. You don't. Oh, you'll never learn. You'll live. You'll learn.
I love the vocal delivery on this one as well. It's so laid back compared to some of the other things. We've heard her throughout this album belting out this, again, this kind of very unique but very powerful vocal. But on here, just very chilled, almost spoken in some parts.
Another very memorable chorus, and I can remember everybody belting out, "You've already won me over." Bit Liza Minnelli.
Liza sings Alanis. I would like to hear that.
Yeah, forget bloody Glee and the kids on there. Get Liza Minnelli on the case.
I thought you was going to say then, forget bloody Pet Shop Boys. That would have been cause for concern, actually.
This was the 6th single to be released from the album, or maybe 5th, depending on your territory. This was her first top 10 single in the UK. Got to number 7 in the UK single chart, which is funny, really, because it's actually, for me, the weakest single. Still an enjoyable song, you know, good, but the weakest single. But I guess this is her rise in popularity and presence in the UK as a musician that's helped propel her, thrust her up the charts.
But it is interesting, though, that, you know, being single 5 or 6, the album, of course, would have already been out and sold massively. It is interesting that it was this single that did so well, because I don't think it is, looking back, I don't think it's the most popular. I would agree, I don't think it's the strongest single. It's very strange that this is the one that did it.
And it's about a couple who are best friends as well as lovers.
Oh,
That's lovely.
that's lovely.
Track number 9 now. Mary Jane.
Well, it's full speed, baby, in the wrong direction. There's a few more bruises, if that's the way you insist on heading.
So that was track 9, Mary Jane. What a great time to look at fantastic album artwork. This is an iconic album cover, and you could show it to anyone without the name on there and their face, and they would know who it was, because it's just, again, synonymous with the mid-1990s. You've got Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill on there in a kind of typed face font, and you've got her head in green and red with a bit of sun shining through there as well. It's lovely, isn't it? But so familiar as well.
Yeah, so familiar. And worth noting as well that Jagged Little Pill has been re-released in 2005 for the 10-year anniversary, and then again for the 20th anniversary. And each time the cover art has been tweaked slightly, but still very much using this as the main reference.
Well, it has to be, doesn't it? Because it is,
Yeah.
it is the album.
Yeah,
It's the album.
and I have to say, I'm glad they made a few changes to it. I'm glad it wasn't just this. I'm glad they did something different. But yeah, you can't take away from this, iconic cover. And yes, Will, it is one I have on vinyl, and it has been on the Wall of Fame.
What do you think of the track?
I like I can see why it chose this track. I think, for me, this would be one of my not top tracks. But we haven't yet talked about the fact that Jagged Little Pill was only a few years ago turned into a Broadway show, and a very successful Broadway show as well, nominated for several awards. And this is a song that I can really imagine working well on stage. And this, and a few of the other ones as well, but this one I think just feels very personal. I'm sure they sort of wove a character called Mary Jane into the story to be able to sing this song too. Initially, obviously, I assumed it was about pot, the devil's lettuce, ganja, Sweet Mary Jane Holland.
The Devil's Lettuce. This is lovely.
But it's not apparently, Will. Apparently, Alana said she wasn't sophisticated enough to be smoking marijuana at the time. But yes, Will, what do you think obviously it's the Al Markwork song. What do you think to the song?
It's not my favourite song on the album. It's a slower moment. Obviously, that's often a sticking point for me. But actually, the chorus is really nice in this. I just like every other song a bit more on the album.
Yeah.
Track number 10 now. It's a big one.
It's like rain on your wedding day. It's a free ride when you've already paid. It's the good advice that you just didn't take. And who would have thought it figures? Mr. Play It Safe was afraid to fly. He packed his
Ironic there, probably one of the most iconic Alanis Morissette tracks. Not just because it's an amazing pop rock track, but because just the lyrics in it, you know, the ironicisms, is that a word?
It is now, Will, because you said it.
It is now. The ironicisms and the wordplay in the lyrics are just so memorable. And again, we were mouthing our way through that track, weren't we?
We were to each other, which is a lovely experience in this day and age. But I love the fact that, of course, the song is called Ironic. It's full of those, what were you calling them? Ironicisms. New word of the day. But, of course, there's so much controversy around whether the lines in this song are actually irony or not. And I think since the song came out, there's kind of an argument that's gone on. And Alanis and Glenn, the co-writer, have both said many times that they weren't trying to be exactly correct, that these things were ironic. And in fact, Alanis has said that in fact they were just trying to make each other laugh in the studio with these slightly ironic situations. And Glenn has said in an interview that he's got a degree in English and he did his dissertation on T.S. Eliot, so he understands what irony is. But, for the basis of this pop song, this worked. So, all these people whinging on about, is it ironic or not? Bugger off.
But what I would say to Glenn and Alanis, though, is if there was a no smoking sign and they were having a cigarette break, they'd actually broken the law. So, irony or not, that's illegal.
Track by Track investigates.
But what a song. What a great song.
It's a great song. I feel like this is her most known song. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a big hit in the UK. It got to number 11, so continuing her rise. This was the third single released from Jagged Little Pill.
And a great video for this one. Will, do you remember the video?
Oh, I can't remember.
The video had Alanis. It was a car full of Alanises. She was picking herself up, literally in the car, which just gave me a horrible vision of a car full of Wills, particularly with Will driving.
I'm not going to take offence, Dan, because I can't drive.
And you can take offence, though, can't you?
Quite happily. But we do enjoy a bit of irony ourselves, don't we, Dan?
We do. And I quite enjoy a bit of ironing as well. Quite therapeutic. Also, Alanis performed a new version of this song on The Late Late Show in 2015 with updated lyrics about swiping left and funny tweets and a no smoking sign when you brought your vape.
Ah, nice.
Is that better
What
for
an
you?
Update.
Will you be less likely to look up that's a crime?
It's still a bit of a grey area, but we'll cross over it. Such as the success of this song, it sold 664,000 copies in the UK.
Goodness me.
And was a number one hit in the US, actually, as well.
Oh, good. I'm glad about that. Also, the video, I forgot to say, the video won an MTV Video Music Award. Actually, won several.
Track number 11 now. And Dan, this is what you realised after you had that quite invasive anal endoscopy procedure. Not the doctor.
Visiting hours are 9 to 5, and if I show up at 6:10, well, find some way to sneak me in and mind the empty bottle with the holes along the bottom. You say it's too much to ask for, and I am not the doctor.
So I should point out, Dan, that he was a cleaner and he had quite a specific perversion.
I don't know if I'm ready to talk about it yet, Will.
Still quite sore.
Very.
So, not the doctor there. I love, I just lost count of the number of times I said I've loved the chorus in this episode, but visiting hours are 9 to 5, but if you turn up at 6:10, I'll still try and fit you in. Obviously not a real doctor, because if you've ever tried to be flexible with a doctor's receptionist, absolute nightmare.
Well, the receptionists are the worst ones, actually, aren't they? The doctors are normally quite lovely, but
Yeah.
receptionists, they're kind of busybodies who... do you know what? I think I had to go to the doctors once, or I don't know if I rang them up or I went in there and I said, I need an appointment. And the receptionist said, what for? What's wrong with you? And I felt like saying, what the hell has it got to do with you? You're an admin woman. Just take my name down and get me an appointment.
But she eventually had your trousers down and was almost trying to triage herself.
What, at the same time as triaging me?
So this track, again, I love the story that's going through this, you know, talking about I'm not your nurse, I'm not your mother, I'm not, you know, all of this kind of wonderful wordplay.
Yeah, I really like this one. And again, I think it's one that would really lend itself to the musical because, you know, it's already kind of creating characters. So I imagine there was a doctor in the Jagged Little Pill musical. Probably quite fun to play the Doctor, actually.
I'd love to play the Doctor.
Yeah. Doctor Who are you thinking about?
Yeah.
I was thinking doctors and nurses.
You do like taking people's temperatures.
But yeah, the chorus is where it really gets going. And again, I think obviously this is the penultimate track of proper songs on the album, I'll say. And it feels like it is really, you know, it's not going out with a whimper. It's a really full-on chorus, full of guitar, full of grunge, full of some great production.
And on to track 12 now. And this is Wake Up.
Little Susie, wake up.
Granted, I'm taken for, 'cause it's easy not to, so much easier not to, and what goes around never comes around till you,
So do you think on this track, Wake Up, do you think this is Alanis is telling us to wake up? Do you think she's sending us a message?
Do you know what, Will? I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. We really should wake up, shouldn't we? Smell the coffee. Look around. See what's going on. Do something.
Do something about the world we're living in at the moment, whether that's the environment, the political state, the health state. Well, it's very open to interpretation, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But it's a great album closer.
What do you think of this as kind of the last track proper on the album? Apart from it being great.
It apart from being very generic and vague, I really like, again, I'm really getting a lot from the grooves of this album, and I think the bass and the drums, and I think there's a lot of drum machines on this album actually. I think it comes through on this song, but also again, you've got really clever observational lyrics. The vocal kind of showcases what Alanis can do. I think it's a great track to leave you and remind you kind of what kind of encapsulate what you've just experienced.
And just playing underneath now, you can just hear the last actual track on the album, which is a bit of a reprise for You Ought to Know. It's the Jimmy the Saint blend, and a hidden track leading in, which is actually what you can hear, which is Your House and a cappella. So a more low key end.
Yeah, I do. Did you miss hidden tracks?
No, not really. Just give us the goods up front.
That is your motto for everything.
No, but for some people, and it's particularly more when we were in a very seedy world, CD, not CD as in. It was always nice to have a surprise at the end, especially when you discover that last track on the album was 8 or 9 minutes long, but the track finished at 3.5, 4 minutes. But I guess it's just really hard to do now in a streaming world because it's not hidden, it's there.
Yeah.
You can see it.
Quite right. Also, Will, I'd like to mention, I think I might have got myself a little bit confused before. I mentioned about the anniversary editions of the album, but there was a full acoustic reworking of the album, which is the one that was released 10 years to the day after the original. So if you do like the more stripped back sounds of the album, or this more acoustic a cappella track, there's a whole album there waiting for you.
And before we move into further listening, just a word on the album performance. It was very positively reviewed. So Q Magazine 4 out of 5, NME 7 out of 10, Rolling Stone 4.5 out of 5. So I think a lot of positivity around kind of the fresh voice and talent that Alanis was showcasing in this album, around the songwriting and the production. A few critics around maybe some of the repetitive nature of some of the tracks. But on the whole, a very, very positively reviewed album. So, Dan, for further listening, what are we going to do?
Well, as we said, there are various anniversary editions of the album with lots of demos and acoustic versions and things like that. But actually, I think what we wanted to do today was bring things right up to date. Alanis is still releasing albums, and her most recent album, Such Pretty Forks in the Road, was followed up with a remix EP, Such Pretty Forks in the Mix. So just to kind of add a real track-by-track element to the episode, we thought we'd end it with a bit of a donk, didn't we?
We are going to end it with a donk. And Dan, I'm going to be a bit cheeky. First of all, I'm going to say I'd like to kick off. And I'm going to choose a remix that isn't on the EP, but does exist. So this is of the wonderful track Smiling. This is the F9 radio remix, Freemasons alert, of Smiling. The F9 radio remix of Smiling. F9 is one half of the Freemasons, and Dan, it jumps out at you, doesn't it? Because they're definitely trying to make it sound a little bit like Uninvited.
Yes, I thought that straight away. And I got confused, actually. I had to have a quick look just then because I was thinking, I'm sure Freemasons remixed Uninvited, but it was a cover, wasn't it? It wasn't Alanis's vocal on the track.
No, it was Bailey Zook that provided the vocals on their re-recorded version of Uninvited.
I haven't done much digging, but I bet out there somewhere there must be there's a Freemasons mix of Alanis's, or someone's put them together.
Oh, there is.
Is there?
Yeah, that's where it originated, but then they decided to open it up like a lovely flower.
Oh, that's lovely.
But I do enjoy a bit of Alanis with a donk on, and I think this is just great fun. Also familiar, if you enjoy listening to our new music drops last year, we did feature it then.
Oh.
Dan, what have you gone for?
So I am going for the MNDR remix of Sandbox Love. So the MNDR remix of Sandbox Love there. For anyone who doesn't know, MNDR is a singer-songwriter and producer. She's probably most known for being the featured vocalist on Mark Ronson and the Business International's Bang Bang Bang. She's also got a fantastic album called Feed Me Diamonds. And also, and it's just, you'll love... Oh my goodness me. Possessed
Bit
by
of a
the
growler.
devil. And also, you'll love the fact that I get to say this, Will. She stood in for Nick Rhodes on a Duran Duran tour when he was unable to play a few dates.
Oh, for God's sake. Every week. Every bloody week.
How you would have thought on the Alanis Morissette episode. Maybe this is the episode where I didn't mention Duran Duran. But no.
The thing I enjoy about this remix is it's really housey. I can imagine Jodie Harsh playing this in one of her DJ sets.
Yes, definitely.
I can just imagine bobbing her head behind the decks in that way she does.
And hopefully we'll get to see that in real life very soon, Will.
And if you're listening,
Hiya, Jodie.
hello, Jodie.
We're out of time.
Out of time. So there we go. Alanis Morissette on Track by Track. What a delight. Dan, thank you. Thank you for joining me.
You're very welcome. I'd love to come back and do it again.
Maybe next week.
I'm busy next week.
Do let us know what your memories are of Jagged Little Pill's seminal album, great to talk about today, at Track by Track UK.
And if you have enjoyed this week's episode, please do head over to Apple Podcasts to give us a rating and a review. We love positivity.
So give us 5 stars and a lovely comment, please. Dan, can you give us a hint of a tease as to what's coming up next on Track by Track?
Next week, we're going from an album celebrating 25, 26 years to an album that is just about to turn 3. And it is the debut album from a indie dance electro brother-sister fronted band from Australia.
Who could it be? To say anything more, might not give it away actually. Who could it be? Yeah, quite vague. But a great group to talk about next week.
That's all we've got time for today. Why is this normal? How do we normally end it?
So until next time, I've been Glenn Ballard.
And I've been not the doctor. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.
Honestly, kind of run a professional podcast here. Well,
Are we?
That's the joke.
Should have let me know. When did you start doing that?
Oh, we're having a soup as well, but I've got a couple of baps.
I did see when you sat down, they nearly punched you in the eye.